Okay, hopefully, can everyone see my screen? That's a thumbs up, amazing. All right, so hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us this evening and welcome to this session, which is entitled Patient-Led Peer Support Groups. So if that's not what you're expecting, you're in the wrong place. We're part of the Footsteps Festival 2021. Thanks very much for the Footsteps team for inviting us to come along. We're really pleased to be here. Before we start, I'm just going to run through some very basic information about participating in the meeting. Firstly, we'd appreciate it if you could keep on mute during the presentation, and there'll be a question and answer session at the end where we can invite you to turn on your microphone if you're asking a question. You can indicate you want to ask a question by using the raise hand function down at the bottom there, or by putting your question in the chat, and one of the teams will be monitoring that and asking if you'd like to ask your question live or just have it read out. Please be aware that we are recording the session. Hopefully you heard that little announcement, and we'll be in speaker mode, so you won't be visible unless you speak. So if you do want to ask a question live and don't wish to be visible, please turn your camera off. And just to say, please continue to use the chat function throughout if you want to make any comments. Yeah, hopefully you will enjoy our presentation. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Rachel. So just to talk a little bit about the festival. So the Footsteps Festival 2021 is a year-long programme of exciting, innovative events exploring and celebrating living well with pain. It's covered everything from singing with Opera North to mindfulness for pain to Zentangling and much in between. It's co-produced between people with lived experience and also learned experience with pain clinicians, and generously giving up her time to support us today on the technical front is Nikki Jones, Vice Chair of the Festival Committee. So thank you very much, Nikki. Over to you, Rachel.
Great, thank you. So in this session, we're going to be exploring the subject of self-organised peer-to-peer support in the area of chronic pain and its management. And it's being presented by myself, Rachel Bonington, Mark Ankathangelou, and Santo Bassani. And the three of us today all have lived experience of chronic pain, and we've all played key roles in the development of an independent peer-to-peer support network in our community in North London, the Camden Patient-Led Peer Support Group, abbreviated to CamPain. So over to you, Mark.
Yeah, so just to give you a bit of an overview of the session and why we're holding it, the importance of peer support in managing long-term conditions, in particular chronic pain, is becoming increasingly recognised. And so a major part of what we want to get across today is just how important peer support can be, and we're going to go into that in some detail. So in our case, of course, we're talking about peer support in the context of an actual patient-led group, which is slightly unusual. And so we want to talk to you a bit about us and our group, partly because we're very proud of what we've done, but also because we think it's something that would be useful for other people to know about. And it's a nice slide of our group meeting up there. So over to you, Rachel.
So just to give you a quick overview of what to expect over the next 40 minutes or so, we'll begin by telling you a bit of the story of our group, how it came into being, what we do. Then we want to expand a little bit on the principles of peer support and share with you the experiences and thoughts of the members of our group, telling you what we find valuable about being involved. After that, we'll talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of running a group like ours, what's gone well in our experience and what we think you should avoid. A special area of our experience relates to dealing with the NHS and clinicians, so we want to give some time to that topic. And then finally, we'll allow plenty of time for questions and answers, at least until 8 PM and perhaps a bit later if people would like to stay around. So let's begin by looking at the journey of CamPain, starting with the very early stages of this group's development, the Pain Space project, which is going to be described by my colleague Santo.
At the moment, okay. Can you hear me? I was unmuted, basically. Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Rachel. I will be briefly discussing the journey to setting up Pain Space. In January 2017, I attended a 9-week pain management program with Camden Pain Assessment and Management Services. We were a group of 12 people with a diverse range of physical conditions, invited to develop new skills and abilities that would hopefully help our journey to live a meaningful life despite chronic pain. As the pain management program progressed and the group had started to appreciate the sharing of experiences and the support derived from one another, I initiated a discussion about how we could maintain support after the program had ended. One idea was to set up a WhatsApp group, which we did, but we all felt that it would be more beneficial if we could meet somewhere every few weeks to share knowledge and experiences of living with persistent pain. Annette, a member of the group, suggested that we could try to approach a local doctor's practice where they had a room available for local groups to run a variety of health classes. We contacted the James Wigg group practice in Kentish Town in the London Borough of Camden. The contact of the practice we spoke to was sympathetic about the idea to run a patient-led support group at the practice. However, they had concerns about potential health and safety and safeguarding issues with regards to individuals attending the sessions without proper supervision by a clinician. We discussed the concerns with the clinical team running the pain management program. One of the senior physiotherapists offered to liaise with the person in charge at the James Wigg practice. The outcome was quite positive and promising. However, it meant that the pain management team would have to take over the running of the monthly meetings. Pain Space, a patient support group linked to Camden Pain Assessment and Management Services, was born. Our first meeting was on Monday, 9th of October, 2017. The aim was to support and be supported by others living with long-term chronic pain. A member of the clinical team, usually a physiotherapist or a psychologist, will steer the 2-hour session, revisiting some of the strategies learned on the pain management program. Typical meetings included breathing and gentle exercises, including yoga, sessions on mindfulness, sleeping issues, medications, goal settings, and managing flare-ups, among other relevant topics. It will follow group work, providing the opportunity individually to feedback on how we had coped during the previous months, or to do role play, listening exercises as a means to support one another. At regular intervals, the clinical team would survey the group to identify any particular needs or range of topics that could be introduced in future meetings, which will benefit the group. In the main, the monthly sessions were attended quite regularly, as there were obvious benefits from the continued support received by peers, as well as from the clinicians involved. Other chronic pain sufferers who had completed the pain management program could join Pain Space at different stages during the year. However, as time went on, we noticed that not everyone could attend the meetings regularly for various personal circumstances. Consequently, a conversation looking at the possibility to meet at other times during the month started to emerge within the group. That would complement Pain Space activities, as well as provide another opportunity for peer support for individuals who couldn't attend the regular monthly meetings. Through the efforts of a small coordinated group, they managed to negotiate with West Euston Partnership Team in Camden the access to one of the rooms at their premises, H-Port. As a result, a patient-led support group was set up on the 17th of October 2018. Pain Space in its original format continued to operate until the first lockdown in March 2019 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. From then on, the patient pain support group assumed a major role by providing peer support via Zoom meetings available to everyone to attend. Thank you for your attention. Now I'm going to pass over to Mark.
Thank you, Santo, and thank you to thank you for all your work that you did, along with Annette, the fabulous work in setting up Pain Space, without which nothing else would have been possible with the group. So as Santo was saying, in 2018, a number of people were attending these regular sort of pain management top-up sessions called Pain Space, and some of us felt that we needed a bit of extra support and we needed some extra coordination with other patients, and so we started initially in, I think it was about March 2018 by setting up a Facebook page and trying to connect ourselves up that way. That didn't get a lot of traction, interestingly. For some reason, that people didn't really seem to go with that, and I think that sort of also corresponds to the fact that a lot of people who do pain management programs and try to set up WhatsApp groups, it often doesn't seem to work terribly well, at least not for very long anyway. So instead, we decided to focus more on trying to create our own meetings, which we would hold. And we thought that this was important because, as Santo indicated, if you have meetings once a month, that's not really often enough, because people often miss meetings because they have flare-ups or they have other issues. And so that can mean you can go quite a long time without getting any support and lose momentum. So having an extra meeting would be helpful. And also we wanted to put the stress on the peer support angle, which is present in the sort of official meetings of pain management groups, but is obviously going to be secondary, or it's going to only be part of the mix because there are so many other things going on. So we wanted to put a big stress on that. And we also wanted to have more autonomy over what we did, and have a sense of control, which we would get by having our own meetings. So as Sandra said, we formalized ourselves into our own group, which we call the Patient Pain Support Group, PPSG, which was had the merit of being what it said on the tin, but it was a rather clumsy name. We'll come on to that later. And then we started reaching out to local charities, and so I contacted a number of charities and local agencies, and one of them came through very quickly, and that was West Euston Project, then known as West Euston Partnership. And they were fantastic, and immediately they gave us a space to use for free every month. And this is their facility they call the H Pod, or the Health Pod, which is in near Mornington Crescent in Camden. That's Rachel there, standing in front of it. Yeah, so that was really fantastic. And we held our first meeting there in October 2018. We had 7 people. So our initial group activity consisted of these face-to-face meetings and email contact. That was our main mode of staying in touch with each other. And attendance at these meetings varied from about 4 up to about 10 at regular meetings. We started by emulating the sort of pain management programs. So we'd have topics about pain management, which we would talk about, but we quickly realized that wasn't really going to work. What people really wanted was the camaraderie of just being together with other people with pain. We're not clinicians. There was no point in us trying to replicate a pain management program type setting. But although we did have some structured activities. So for example, we had some general support from people such as someone called Elaine Collins, who's a gentle yoga therapy teacher who works in Camden, and we had a Tai Chi demonstration provided through the West Euston Partnership. In terms of reach, we were getting to many more people than were actually attending any individual meetings. So we probably had about 15 people in total who were attending meetings. And a culmination of our first year was a magnificent party, which attracted 12 group members and 6 guests, including clinicians, healthcare professionals, and representatives of the voluntary community sector. And that was supported by local NHS services. And we'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. So going into lockdown, when we were necessarily suspended our face-to-face meetings, we were in pretty good shape. We had a fair number of people attending or being part of our wider network, and we've demonstrated that we could work with NHS and put on quite a decent event. So that's where we were at that point. I'd like to hand over to my colleague Rachel now.
Thanks, Mark. So I joined the PPSG, as it was then known, in January 2019 after completing my pain management programme with the Camden Pain Service. And in February 2020, I became a co-organiser alongside Mark and Stephen, who unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening. We quickly established a WhatsApp group, and this has become a really lively forum for sharing ideas and information and staying in touch with group members. And we recently set up a one-way information-only WhatsApp channel as a way of telling members about upcoming events. When lockdown happened, we realised that we wouldn't be able to keep up with our regular face-to-face in-person meetings, and so initially as a collaboration with Camden Musculoskeletal Services in May 2020, we began doing regular Zoom meetings, and this was a chance to talk to members and keep in touch with each other. But then as things began to ease out of lockdown from September 2020, we took over those Zoom meetings and began hosting our own regular weekly social. And this weekly social group is still going strong more than a year later. We have varying attendance between sort of 4 and 8 people at any one session, but about 15 regulars overall. And people say they find it really helpful. Those who come less frequently say that they do really value knowing that it's there when they need it as well. We also held and continue to hold intermittently additional discussions on relevant topics to people living with chronic pain. In the past, this has included the new NICE guidelines, which I'll talk more about a bit later, and on topics such as flare-ups. And this is usually in the format of a presentation by one of the group members, followed by a discussion. As things have begun to open back up, demand for in-person meetings has increased, and we've returned to the HPod with a new hybrid format, inviting members to either join us in person or virtually via Zoom for up to 40 minutes. And definitely investing in a multi-directional microphone has made that communication a lot smoother. So here's some pictures from one of our hybrid meetings recently. And I think we've definitely recognised that although online has its benefits, there's nothing quite the same as being together in the same room and sharing a cup of tea. One of the things that I've taken the lead on since I joined the co-organising committee has been our digital presence and our communications. And as organisers, we get a lot of information that's of interest to members of the group. Initially, we were just sort of forwarding that on to members of the group, but it quickly becomes a very messy way to communicate when you're getting a lot of things throughout the week. And one of our group members suggested that we might try a weekly newsletter. So following consultation with the group, we settled on this monthly newsletter, first of all using Microsoft Word, and then we later shifted to using MailChimp, which has the benefit of it allows you to make templates that you can reuse. You can add these sort of blocks of text and images, and it also helps us manage our mailing list. And features in this newsletter include updates on what's been happening with the group, upcoming meetings and seminars that might be of interest, and also regular items from group members, including features on our pets, pain management hacks, and helpful gadgets that we've come across that we enjoy using. I've also taken on the task of building a website using a free Wix domain. I'm sure you'd be pleased to know that no coding experience was necessary to put this together. We were able to get some useful advice through our involvement with the Labour Clinic, and this serves as a useful sort of point of contact for those wanting to find out a little bit more about us. And raise our profile, because otherwise we were just sort of relying on word of mouth. So there's the URL down the bottom there, and we'll share that again at the end. We're currently in the process of populating this with useful features and information, and we're going to be putting up some of our tips on how we've put together our pain management group on the website. So definitely watch this space. So through putting together the website and the newsletter, one of the things that came up was that we needed to sort of improve our branding, and so in consultation with the group, we came up with the name CamPain, which is short for Camden Patient-Led Pain Support Group, and I designed this logo, CamPain. Hope you'll agree that it's a lot shorter and easier to remember than PPSG. So having set the context for what our group is and what we do, we'd like to move on to talk directly about peer support in a patient-led group and what this means to our network members. So what is peer support then? Peer support, as defined by National Voices, involves people sharing knowledge, experience, or practical help with each other. And peer support is one of the things that patients and participants tend to really enjoy in pain management programs, but which tends to often be a peripheral element, and it often sort of ends at the end of the program and kind of tapers off a bit. And this is unfortunate because there's real benefits to be had from this, including people feeling more knowledgeable, confident and happy, less isolated and alone, and encouraging people to take more care of their health, which in the longer term could lead to better health outcomes. So as I say, it's unfortunate that sort of tails off, and our group are now going to present some testimonies from group members. Some people are going to read out some of their own comments, and the rest of us are going to read out comments for people who can't be here this evening. So first off, a comment from one of our members, Sadiqa, who says, "I can only get so much help from doctors. Listening to other people talk about their pain helps me understand mine a little bit more. In the group, we sometimes share ideas about what helps us. I find this useful, as from time to time there have been ideas and suggestions I have tried myself." Thank you, Sadiqa. Mark, if you'd like to read the next one from Helen. I think you're on mute, Mark.
Yeah, that would be useful. Yeah, so Helen says, "I like that we have the space to share and listen to one another and also have made friends on the way. I appreciate the support and tips shared when we meet. It helps to stay informed and current on ways to manage chronic pain. This is helping me manage my flare-ups better." And that's from Helen.
Great, thank you. And Santo, if you'd like to read the next one.
Okay, that's a message from Claire.
Yeah.
After attending an 8-week NHS community pain management course, armed with lots of information and resources, the one thing missing was continued peer support. When it came to an end, I thought, where do I go from here? Luckily for me, I found CamPain. I'm with people who have lived experience. They can relate to what I'm going through and some of the challenges I have to deal with. Living with pain, you feel so isolated and alone. With the group, I know I'm not alone. I'm in a safe, no judgmental environment. I am respected and my opinions matter. An environment of loving kindness and emotional support where needed. As well as providing emotional support, we learn, we share knowledge, experiences, treatments, and coping strategies. As a group, we work in partnership to input into government health strategies and initiatives. We have a voice, we matter, and we can make a difference. I'm passing over to Rachel, I believe.
Indeed, yeah. Thank you, Claire, for those lovely comments. So I'm now going to read an anonymous comment from someone in the group who didn't wish to be named. "The last session of my pain management programme was due to happen just as the first lockdown started. By luck, I had kept in touch with a few people from there, and one of them suggested I come along to these online sessions. They had already come to a few. Everyone was really friendly. I'm not the best talker, but it made me feel at ease. Since then, I've come along to most of the online sessions. We don't always talk about pain, but knowing that this is what we have in common is useful. It's the glue that keeps us together. I've found the group to be really supportive and encouraging. Even if we don't agree with each other, we respect each other. There's an understanding we're peers with shared lived experiences, and not healthcare professionals. We don't give each other medical advice, but offer suggestions and discuss what helps us." Lovely, thank you. And I think, Scarlett, are you going to read out your statement here?
Hi. Yes, I will. I'll have to read it though. Thank you. I said the importance of peer support to me. Sorry, the importance of peer support is very simple for me. Not having to explain myself, my symptoms or my condition, knowing that everyone in the group understands, which is freeing in itself.
Thank you, Charlotte. We've got your live picture there as well.
Yes, with
Yeah,
Becky.
Charlotte might. Yeah, I just invite.
Yeah.
Charlotte, if you want to just say a couple more words, if you'd like to, before.
Well, I think particularly if you live with an invisible condition, you have to explain yourself so much to people about why you can't do something. And I'm just, and it doesn't really matter what we're talking about in the group. We know that we don't have to explain why this was difficult or that was okay, or it's just very freeing to know that there are people there and we all support each other and we don't have to explain ourselves.
Definitely. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Scarlett.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Santo, would you like to read the next comment from Pauline?
Yes, thank you. That's messages from Pauline. I believe the support group has serviced a number of pain sufferers well in allowing them opportunity to share personal and commercial valuable information that is beneficial. This has been done in a safe face-to-face and online environment. The facilitators have done a fabulous job in providing, for example, being organized, providing support and newsletter that those who partake are well informed.
Great, thank you. And I think the next one is you, Mark, from Stephen.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, so this is these are comments from group member and one of our co-organisers, Stephen. And Stephen says, being part of a group that understands pain and understands what it's like to live with a silent and visible illness, to have a group of people where it is always recognised is very special. Together we share ideas and experiences of carrying on doing our normal routine as much as possible. The best person to ask for direction is the person that has already been to the place you are looking for. And that's from our friend and colleague, Stephen Lee.
Thanks. And we're going to hear some more comments from Stephen a little bit later on about what it means to be an organiser for him. So I think last but not least, in terms of our peer support testimonies, we have some comments from Maisie. Words that come to mind: empathy, practical no-nonsense advice, such as how to manage a PIP interview, for example. Quizzes, I never knew I'd get to enjoy them. New friendships in older stage, with people of all ages and all backgrounds. Diversity in action, try it. Community, the benefits are endless. And Maisie's put together some words and pictures to express how she feels as a member of CamPain and what being a part of the group means to her. How I feel about being part of the patient pain group. There is beauty in a damaged body too. Be kind to the different you. Learn to embrace that difference. I've learned that on bad days, moving slowly, pausing, breathing deeply, I can appreciate the colour of the sky, the scent of the mist. Being part of the group has expanded my horizon, which was framed by limitations of my pain. Now I am one of many who move beyond their pain. Old gnarled tree, limbs aching, blossoming. I think that's a lovely, hopeful image to end on. Thanks so much to all of our patients, group members who've shared comments. It's really appreciated. Mark.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, as Rachel says, to everybody who contributed to that, we really appreciate that. And these are some really lovely comments about living with pain and about the group. So yeah, thank you very much. And it's really moving, I think, to see the way in which a real sense of community and camaraderie and mutual support has evolved amongst us. So we'd just like to pick out a few key salient points from those contributions on the value of peer support. So as you can see, the big one is easing isolation. So very easy to get isolated when you have chronic pain. So having a peer support group is a really good antidote to that. Certainly it helps. Nextly, friendship. Yeah, so I think that's something which was mentioned by several people, that we have a real bond amongst us, I think because of our shared condition, and that has led to develop some real friendships, which is fantastic. And that really leads on to social support, which is, I think, that we support each other and part of a social network. And it's all founded on shared experience. That's the key element that really binds us together. And that's what we often lack with other people who don't have pain. You know, we may have a lot in common with them, but we don't have that. And so this is something that brings us together. And it's, yeah, the group, both, you know, literally and metaphorically, is an open and safe space where we can meet and where we can have non-judgmental interactions. Nobody is making, you know, negative assumptions about us and our pain and our invisible condition. So that's really reassuring and comforting for us all. Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks, Mark. So I'm going to give what's quite a brief overview, hopefully, of some key lessons from our group's experience, particularly as organisers. We are very happy to answer any questions about this at the end, and we'll be sharing our email address in case any of you want to get in contact and are thinking of setting up your own group, but hopefully this will give you some starting points. So some of you might be wondering what you need in terms of organisers. Essentially, you just need a small group of people who have the time, the capacity and the commitment to run a group like this. Crucially, you need a sort of a shared vision of what you want to achieve. In our case, we found that putting together a terms of reference document was quite helpful in terms of sort of agreeing how we were going to work together. And in that vein, having a kind of a sense of common purpose. But we would definitely encourage you, if you're thinking of setting up a group like this, to make use of all the skills available in your group. And remember, ultimately, that the people in your group are, at the end of the day, still peers. We're all living with pain, and don't overburden people, essentially. But at the same time, do encourage new volunteers. People are inevitably going to need to drop out at some point, and people need to kind of step up, I guess, and take over. And we want the group to be sort of self-sustaining so that it runs long into the future, and hopefully yours will do likewise. As organisers, I would say, I think we all agree it's a really rewarding and beneficial experience. You learn a lot of new skills, from communication and digital resources to how to facilitate a group, how to plan events. It's a great way to boost your confidence and sense of achievement and make a real contribution to your community. It's also very rewarding to help fellow pain patients, and from my own experience, I found it very helpful in terms of my professional development and increasing my public and patient engagement skills as a professional. So in terms of what the group might actually do, Stephen's got some more comments. Perhaps Mark, if you could read these out, if that's all right.
Certainly can, yeah. So Stephen says about being one of the organisers. Being an organiser, I found it really rewarding to go through the process of trying to create a space for those with similar experiences with pain as myself. It is very important for me that we have somewhere without strict rules or protocols to follow, somewhere people could just be together with pain, with the struggles living with it, with others who get the difficulties of trying to hold down a job or be part of a family who don't understand our pain, to help make somewhere for us where we all recognise each other's pain and struggles.
Thanks, Mark. And I think Stephen speaks for all of us there in sharing those thoughts. So to go back to what your group might actually want to do, we would say learn from your group members what it is that you want to be doing. Don't assume that people need or want a certain thing, and discover that through experience. Do try to keep activities sort of manageable and relevant, and keep a momentum by having regular events. But at the same time, we would generally say don't try to replicate the pain management program environment, keep it quite light and fun. And ultimately, the main focus of the group, and what we have found as our members have just told you, is the most valuable thing about running this group is the peer support aspect. And sometimes just being with people with pain and feeling understood is enough. So essentially we would say don't overthink it, because the peer support element is essentially just interacting with fellow pain patients and being able to exchange ideas. So don't overdo discussions, although they can be a great way to engage members on particular themes. I've already talked quite a lot about going digital, so I'm not going to dwell too much on this, apart from to say that it can be a way to engage new people. There are definitely a lot of benefits. It can be quite scary at first and does need a bit more facilitation than face-to-face. But one thing that we have done, which I think is really valuable, is that we recently co-produced a set of guidelines for Zoom meetings to ensure that they're fully inclusive and safe. And this was something that we did in collaboration with group members. And that leads me on to our last sort of tip, if you like, for running a group like this, which is to be as democratic and inclusive as possible. Really bring everyone along, encourage people to get involved. And in fact, this session itself, we co-produced with 6 of our group members. And through this, we've put together a planning committee who are sort of helping to plan the future of the group. And undoubtedly, digital makes this easier because we can bring together people from all over the place, and we don't have to be, traveling to and from meetings. So Mark, if you'd like to talk a bit more about our experience working with official structures.
Yeah, so a really important part of what we've done has been around sort of collaborating, cooperating, co-producing with local NHS services and other agencies. So I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of that. So starting off with the West Euston project, I've already referenced them before about the support they gave us, but just to stress that, well, first of all, we'd like to acknowledge the fantastic job they've done and the support they've given us, but also just to stress that it's important to have a partner like that, because without them giving us that support and providing us with a room, we would have struggled to really get the project off the ground. So next slide, please. And the next slide, please. So we were approached pretty early on in our history by Christina Sorrell in her capacity as Camden MSK patient director, and she came along to our second meeting back in November 2018, and she quickly identified that we could work in collaboration, and a number of our group became involved with Camden MSK Patient Advisory Group. She regularly attended our meetings, gave us a lot of advice, encouragement, boosted our profile within the borough and beyond, and as I say, brought a lot of us into involvement with patient and public voice work, and also helped us, supported us with our first big party event that was funded and to some extent organised or jointly organised with Camden MSK through her. So she's been a big support to us. She was also involved in another project which I think was important for us, which was the Camden MSK lockdown group. And yes, so next slide, please. So this was a really interesting project where essentially what happened was that we were approached by Christina and her colleague Jonathan Hersey from the clinical director at Camden MSK to essentially co-produce a set of online twice weekly meetings for clinicians, healthcare professionals and MSK patients in Camden during the first lockdown. And this was really successful and interesting project. It brought a lot of people together. There's very useful exchanges of information, and it ended up being held up as an exemplar of good practice on the change in the NHS Change Challenge project, which is a sort of a project for capturing some of the most beneficial changes that occurred through the pandemic, which could then be taken up and used in going forward. And that then led to us taking over that. When the lockdown ended, we actually ended up setting up our own regular Zoom meetings, which carry on to this day. So I'd just like to introduce Christina and ask her to talk a little bit about her interaction with us. And Christina, if you can unmute and say a few words.
Hello. So this is a point where I don't know. Hang on, let me see if I've got the camera facing the wrong way. I don't have a clue. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Can you see me or not?
Just slide. Yeah.
Oh,
We can't see you. We can just see the photo. But we're
Oh,
very
we can see a cup.
oh, then that's what I wanted to know. Is it the wrong way around? So hello. I have no idea what I'm doing here. So hi. Can you see me now? No, you still can't see me. Apologies to this, guys.
We can the slide. Oh, there we go. Got you.
This is really strange, really spotlight. So can you see me, Mark, now? Because can't see me, so I don't know what you can see.
Yes.
Mark, I've always said it since I met you guys, the dedication to keep on going and to have zero resource in sense of ongoing funding, and you have just celebrated your 3rd year, I believe, is that correct? Is quite amazing, to be honest with you. So I know that when I came along with one of the founders that had come to an event I'd done when I was Camden, working with Camden MSK, and she said, well, would you like to come and talk and meet the rest of the group? We were only starting today. And I was like, okay, I'll come next month. I don't think I ever left. And in a way, I don't think I ever will leave, even if it is just through the WhatsApp group. As somebody with chronic pain, I felt absolutely at ease. I was welcomed into that space. Although I was in a lived experience role based at UCLH, I was working across the whole borough. And it was just nice to be in a space where people understood. And that peer support was continuous throughout. And I did write something, but as always, I talked too much and it was way too long. But I do want to just read out some parts of it. As a person with lived experience of chronic pain, I was instantly drawn to the thought of having peer support. I initially met this group in a professional capacity as patient director. To be honest, I was fascinated by the way they formed with no resources, no professional involvement, and yet were able to source a central, accessible location for free. They absolutely took me back to memories of my community co-production work that I'd previously been involved in Camden. Not only did I have support as a person living with chronic pain, but I also had a group of people who were willing to help me in my role and join the patient advisory group that I was forming in Camden MSK. My commitment to them was to still come to the meetings each month, but also to help them in whichever way I could, support their growth, but also to be able to source training. We definitely went to many different conferences, whether it was healthcare conferences or at King's Fund, to the point that we could actually compare notes of lunches. So throughout that, a friendship has been formed with many of the people that I've met through my work, but also continuously since then. The truth is, the peer support I received myself from each individual in those sessions were more valuable than anything I could ever give back. The reality is, when we came to the lockdown session, and for people who aren't potentially in the UK, it was the time where we weren't allowed to leave our homes. A lot of us were shielding, which meant we were vulnerable to COVID. And through that time, working together in a space twice a week, we were doing Zooms and was maintaining that throughout. We weren't isolated. I weren't expecting my PTSD to be triggered. And you guys absolutely supported me throughout that. So through my mental health taking a knock, through being isolated at home, it absolutely caused a flare up. We compared notes about how many people had taken falls at home. And we compared notes on what stretches to inviting professionals in. And it was amazing to see that you continued to keep on working even when I left that role. And what's been really great is to involve lots of the members, whether it's through coming back as consultation and asking information towards what was the national strategy for MSK, but actually to come back again and say, look, who would like to apply to be one of our patient public voice partners at NHS England. And I'm glad to say that, we have shortlisted members from this group. And it's that dedication to each other that has always been really, really valuable. And I could talk for Great Britain, and I'm going to stop soon. But there is just one last thing that I wanted to say. My recommendation to people wanting to develop peer support groups is to find your community champions. Find those people who already have their support groups and give them the opportunity to thrive. Get to know them, support them. And to be honest with what your needs are too, I was always transparent, I always am. I was never there at CamPain to empower anybody, but rather they helped me and others find their own inner power and voice. And I'd just like to say thank you.
Thanks, Christina. That's really lovely. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah. So yeah, another great ally and supporter. Thank you, Christina. Another great ally and supporter of our group is Dermot Delaney, who is the professional lead physiotherapist at the Pain Management Centre at the National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery, University College London Hospital NHS Foundation Trust, and he's an advanced practitioner. So he showed enormous interest in our group since attending our now famous October 2019 party. He's come to our, he's offered to come and give talks at our meetings. We had to shelve that because of the pandemic, but that's something for the future. And we've had a lot of interaction with him. And for example, we had a wonderful project where he provided us and our group with an online refresher pain management program, which was extremely successful and attended by a large number of our group, up to 12 at a time. And he's also invited members of our group to do co-production with the Pain Management Centre through their Pain Cafe, and he said some very nice things about, well, positive things about peer support and other things about us, which I'll just read out now. So this is from Dermot. So as a clinician, I've become more and more aware of the limitations healthcare has to offer support for what is in reality, for most, a long-term condition for many who experience it. Current systems place restrictions on long-term support, usually offering only temporary input and treatment. This means that after treatment has ended, people are left without the support they would like and find so helpful. Feedback from people who attend the service I work for suggests that the value of peer support cannot be stressed enough. For people living with pain, groups like CamPain are so important as a safe and supportive space for people navigating the reality of living with long-term pain. I've also enjoyed being able to work with CamPain on a few projects and events. It's helped me to develop more collaborative interpersonal skills, and I've really valued that. Thank you, Mark, Rachel, Claire, Christina, and Stephen, and all the CamPain team for all the work you do. So quickly moving on, as I'm aware we're a bit pushed for time. So we've been involved with other work with the voluntary and community sector, and this is an illustration of that. It's our colleague Stephen attending a Camden Carers event in 2019 as one of the co-organisers of the group, where we talked about MSK. Yeah, we can take the next slide. And we've also had quite a lot to do with Voluntary Action Camden, who have provided us with technical support and advice. And we're also on the social prescribing list, which they run. So we're looking forward to that, helping us to expand our activities and develop our group. And then, yeah, so I'll hand over to my colleague Rachel to talk about this section.
Yes, I'm going to say quite briefly, really, because I know we're short on time. We organised a sort of discussion on the new National Institute for Health and Care Excellence guidelines that were aimed at managing chronic primary pain. And we use this sort of traffic light system: do not offer certain treatments and offer certain treatments. And it was really a discussion that that I started sort of presenting what those proposals were, but we gathered comments and concerns from the group and put those together as a document which we were then able to submit as a stakeholder. And NICE were able to give us direct feedback on some of those points, and in response to some of our feedback, they included a section on flare-ups which wasn't initially included. So that was something that we were very proud of, to have that really sort of co-produced set of comments that we then were able to submit and get a response from.
Thank you, Rachel. And so finally, just about going back to the local pain services organised through Camden MSK. Most of the members of our group, certainly I think all the organisers have done pain management programmes through the Camden Pain Service, which comes under Camden MSK. And so we attended the pain space, as mentioned earlier, by Santo, and there has been some degree of cooperation between our group and the pain service, and there were some initial plans for a close collaboration, but that didn't really transpire. And there were also some ideas floated later on for our group to maybe take over some of the peer-to-peer support element as Pain Space, as mentioned, came to an end. But again, that would need a lot more work for it to really to develop, and so that hasn't happened yet. So at the moment, the Pain service is still providing those complete PMP, their pain management programs with our details, and they are still running some webinars, but there's no face-to-face element. So yeah, that sort of rounds up our experiences with the NHS and local services. Over to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Mark. I'm going to say very little to summarise, really, apart from the fact that we're still going after 3 years. We're hoping that we can continue to maintain and improve the group and help it to be self-sustaining in the long term. We're really looking forward to welcoming new group members and championing the role of peer support in people living with chronic pain, continuing to hopefully have fruitful and productive collaborations with healthcare services whilst maintaining our independence and distinct identity. And we are going to I want to allow at least 4 minutes for questions, but I know that Simon is here live and wasn't able to submit comments, so perhaps if you'd like to unmute yourself, Simon, say a few words, that'd be great.
Yes, I just want to say, for me, peer mentoring is really important. Pain is only one part of the multiple comorbidities I deal with, but this group has been the perfect example of how people who are dealing with an issue can cope with it. It is far more important that people can actually see somebody and talk to somebody that has it. Clinicians are very, very good, and they study for years and everything else, but at the end of the day, it's not the same as speaking to somebody who's walked the journey you've walked. And I would like to thank especially Santos at the beginning for starting the group, but also Mark, Rachel and Stephen, who have been absolutely brilliant at getting things together. It was my idea that you had a hybrid meeting. Sorry about that, but I think it's important where we can get people in, get them in the room, and get people. The most important thing is having somebody there and knowing that somebody's there to listen, whether it's on the WhatsApp group or the weekly meetups on WhatsApps or on Zoom meetings or whatever. And the monthly get together, now we can actually see people far, far better. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to everybody, because it's a perfect example of patient-led support. I'm a peer mentor and an advocate in a number of other issues, both mental and physical. But the point is, this group is a perfect example, and I will be using it as an example to others. And I already have been. So carry on what you're doing. Amazing.
Thank you very much, Simon. So I'd like to take some questions now. I think there have been some in the chat. Perhaps Nikki, if you'd like to maybe read out some of those, and we can try our best to answer.
Yeah, no problems. We had one earlier from Sigrun, who would like to ask if you guys have any suggestions on who would be the most appropriate for peer support groups. They recently started a group in NHS Forth Valley, and they're unsure who it would be best for: people who are early on in their journey or those who've had previous input but needing support. Do you guys have any sort of opinions on that?
So, I mean, Mark might want to say a bit more on this, but I mean, my thoughts would be that we have generally said that we are that we want to offer support to people who have finished their pain management program. So they've already had involvement with the pain services. We're not healthcare professionals. We can't offer people advice in managing their pain, but what we can do is offer that peer support. And so we've decided to offer to support people at that stage in their journey. If you want to try and offer people support at a much earlier stage, then that does come with some challenges in terms of what you're able to offer people. That's what I would say. Perhaps Mark or Santo, if you'd like to say.
I would agree. I would agree with you, Rachel, entirely. That's exactly my same position as yours, basically. Yeah, definitely. Because people need that understanding of pain management, basically, before you can put them in a group. Otherwise, they're just going to get lost and they get fed up and perhaps leave. And as Rachel was saying, no, we are not professionals. We are there just to support other people with the same condition as us. And I think we have already demonstrated that we're able to do that. And therefore, that could be a formula that could be adapted or adopted by anyone that's interested in setting up a support group. Sorry, Mark.
No, that's fine. I completely agree. I think it is much easier because having done the pain management program, we have a shared set of understandings, and the expectations are, frankly, lowered. So that actually works very well. I mean, it's not to say that it couldn't work in another setting if everybody's in the same place. It's just that we haven't really explored that, and our experience does incline us towards the way that we've done things, which does seem to work well.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, excellent. Christina, did you want to say something?
Just very quickly to say that it's one of the things I loved is the fact that it was people who'd already used a pain management service, because there is that understanding, and also it shows that you guys have an awareness that everybody is on a different journey, but there is an element of safety, because it could be quite dangerous, somebody coming into that space. When we give each other advice, it's not necessarily medical advice. We may talk about something similar, but actually it's the support of the process from referral right through to treatments and recoveries and prehab and rehab and all of those things around it. And I think what's really key is the support you've had from places like Dermot when they came in to the lockdown group and did a refresher. So we'd all not had a pain management. Some of us, it's been a very long time since we've done a pain management course, and actually having that refresher in that environment once we were all at home was, for me, was priceless without a doubt. But it's that understanding, it's those partnerships with individuals who come in, who have supported throughout, who are also clinicians that that lived and learned experience has been great.
Brilliant, thank you.
Just to say, I'm happy to keep on taking questions. I'm just going to put our contact details in the chat in case anyone didn't get those down. And if we haven't had a chance to answer your question and you need to leave, please do get in touch with us and we'll try and help.
Do you want to channel questions to us from the chat or wherever?
I think you've answered Anne's question, which was whether you needed to link in with NHS services. I think you've answered that. Simon wants to know, here's an awkward question, is have you ever had, for want of a better term, personality clashes, and how have you managed that? Because that's actually interesting, because you've got a lot of different people.
Yeah, actually, I've got. I might comment on that first, because that we did have some issues with that at an early stage, but before Rachel and Santo River. But yeah, I mean, without going into detail, I think that it's very important to try to identify the people that you can work with from an early stage, but also people with pain. It takes a toll on people, and it affects people's mental health, and so it can be. And I think when you take on the responsibility of running a group, that can add an extra strain. It can be, as we've said, it can be quite liberating and good for one's personal development, or alternatively, it could be just a bit too much for people to handle. So, we have had some issues, and long behind us now. But I think it's all about choosing the right people to work with and making sure that people don't take on too much.
Okay, yeah. That was from Simon, who's a pain physio, not Simon who commented earlier, just to make that clear for the viewers. Okay, sorry, Santos, you were.
No, it's fine. I think Marcus answered spectacularly, really. I mean, yes, there can be issues, but in the main, I think people understand why we're all there. We're there really to support one another, and therefore, we need to move on. And I think we're pretty good at it, basically. If people at the end of the day, they can't cope for various reasons. You know, you can take them to the journey up to a certain point, and then they need to decide what they want to do, and that's it. But I'll say nothing serious has really happened, has it? Really, you know, it was just minor issues that they need to be sorted out one way or another, really. So
Pretty
that's fine.
harmonious.
Yeah, by the end of the day, yeah, really, yeah, that's fine.
Christina?
I love how humble you are, because many a times I came and let off a lot of steam. So you know, let's be honest, it's such and you know, and welcoming to new people. It's not cliquey. That's what I love about it. It's not, you know, but it gave people safe space to let off some steam, whether it was about home life, whether it was about work, whether it was about, you know, the way they had healthcare. I think it you know, it's that common ground that pain, if you have chronic pain, you will have variable moods as well. Well, I do, definitely. If I'm in pain, stay away from me. So it's that kind of thing, that there was an understanding. I think when I said we're quite tolerant, I think that's because actually we understand each other.
Definitely.
Do you guys have a ground rules? I mean, that, you know.
Yeah, Rachel, do you want to take that?
Yes, we do. In fact, I'm going to see if I can pull them up very quickly. But while I'm searching for that on our Google Drive, yes, we did put together some co-produced, we call them guidelines, and they are largely common sense. They're things that we all think are necessary and important, just to ensure that people have a say, really, and have a chance to speak equally, and that we have, as we've said, an inclusive and you know, safe space for people to you know, to share their concerns. If I share my screen, it's blank. Great, it's not blank. I promise.
There it is.
I'm not going to read them all out, but it's fairly short, as you can see. It's about a page. Basically, being supportive and encouraging, being mindful of not dominating discussions, respecting confidentiality and privacy, not recording meetings, and remembering that we're peers, not healthcare professionals, not giving medical advice. Switching off microphones and cameras if there are distractions, not using meetings to promote other causes, and accepting some degree of moderation is necessary to make sure that everybody feels like it's a safe space. And those were co-produced as a group, so they were over several sessions. We had discussions where people could raise things they wanted to include in those guidelines, and then we put those together and had several sort of consultations on them. So it wasn't, definitely not a top-down, here are the rules.
Excellent. And they sort of translate to the face-to-face groups, with obviously with them.
Indeed, I mean, the same sort of confidentiality and not raising sort of not relevant subjects or things that would be offensive, but I guess things like not recording is maybe a bit less relevant in person. But yeah, in general, the principles of being supportive and respecting people's opinions still apply. Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. So anybody else got any sort of questions that you want to ask these guys?
If anyone would like to unmute and is comfortable speaking, we're happy to take sort of live questions as well as in the chat. I have been reading back through, and I really appreciate, we've had some really lovely comments from people to say that, that they really enjoyed our presentation, and that someone said that we sound like a real family. It does feel like a family, and yeah.
It does. I mean, it's really quite inspiring how good a job you've done, and how you managed to carry on through COVID as well. I mean, that must have been quite a head spin for you, sort of.
Definitely a challenge. We were quite quick to try and do something virtual. I think Mark, did we start using Google Hangouts for a bit before Zoom? I feel like we might have done.
Yeah, we did try that, but I'm just aware that Scarlett is waiting to come in with a question. So,
No, not a question
oh, a
actually.
statement. Yeah.
We were talking. You were talking about how it feels. Somebody had said it feels like a family, and it's interesting because earlier on, when you were speaking, I was thinking, we've made some really nice friendships. You know,
Absolutely.
it's like we're more friends than we're colleagues. I feel personally, there's a lot of care in the group, and I just think I feel rather proud actually of us all who've just been turning up and doing it. It's a great thing. I would encourage anybody who's thinking of doing it to do it.
Absolutely. And I found it quite moving hearing saying those comments. I mean, when we were receiving, the things people had written about us, it was really very rewarding to see that people really value having the group, and it is something that we do. As all of us, we just want to help each other and support each other as best we can.
Well, it's clear that you do that very much so. So you should be very proud of yourselves. And thank you so much for coming along to the festival and telling us all about it, because I really hope it will, really inspire people to follow your example and, make their own groups around the countryside, because we really need this, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, thanks very much for inviting us. And I just want to stress thank you so much to everyone who contributed to this presentation and sent in those comments, because, as I say, there were 6 of us who contributed and only 3 people who you saw speaking. So thank you to those who did some work behind the scenes, and for everyone. And as I say, if anyone wants to get in touch, you can email us at patientpainsg@yahoo.com, or we're on Twitter, and our website is patientpainsg.wixsite.com/CamPain. So please, if you've got any questions that we haven't managed to get through, do.
Yeah, I just want to re-emphasize what Rachel says there, that we are very happy to cooperate. We have been contacted by some healthcare professionals who are interested in trying to set up groups or facilitate such groups being set up, and we've said we're happy to give any advice or any cooperation support we can to that. We're really eager to see the message of peer support and patients coming together to help each other spread. And so so please do get in touch with us through the details provided by Rachel, and we'll definitely reach out to anybody who reaches out to us.
We'll make sure that this is being recorded. It'll be on on the Footsteps Festival website. We'll put all those contact details with the recordings, so people can contact you via that.
Anne has thanked us for being an excellent example and said that she wants to set up something similar in their corner of Somerset. I hope we answered your question, Anne. If not, please let us know or get in touch with us. Really appreciate everyone's comments in the chat.
I think you're going to inspire an awful lot of people, you guys. You really have done a magnificent job. So
thank you, Nikki, for organising and helping to organise and for doing all the technical stuff in the background for us, and making it much easier for us to put this on. And we appreciate all your help as always, and all the hard work you do.
It's a pleasure.
Please as well for all the work you're doing. Thank you very much for your.
Before we go, Nikki, do you have any Footstep plugs for upcoming events?
I put them all in the chat, so if people sort of have a quick look in chat. But yes, we've got some good stuff coming on. We've got Monty Nynham with his book plug on Thursday, The Painful Truth. So that's going to be really excellent watching. We've got Cookfulness on Friday at a new time of 12:30 in the afternoon rather than the evening. And we have a breathworks class on Friday night as well, and a movement class on Saturday. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, so check out the website. And so again, just thank you so much for coming, guys. It's been a brilliant presentation, and I just think it's going to be so inspiring for people watching this. So thank you very much. A round of applause.
Thanks to you.
Thank you everybody for coming
Thank
as
you.
well.